This week in the security news, the XZ Backdoor documentary, 0 days the clock isn't ticking, vulnerability mismanagement, reversing traffic light controllers, reversing with Claude, don't curl to bash, reading CVEs makes my head hurt, dumping browser secrets, I open sourced a newish tool, D-Link exploits, there is no password, I control the building now, when old vulnerabilities become new, tile is for stalkers, hacking AI, the Iran war, what cybersecurity needs to know, the National Cybersecurity Strategy, Karuna, and I got phished, and I want a refund. All that and more on this episode of Paul's Security Weekly. This is a Security Weekly production for security professionals by security professionals. Please visit securityweekly.com/subscribe to subscribe to all the shows on our network. Broadcasting live from G-Unit Studios in Rhode Island, it's the show where exploits run wild, packets aren't the only things getting sniffed, and the cocktails flow steady. It's Paul's Security Weekly. Ever feel like your network infrastructure is stuck in the past? Meet Meter, the company reimagining what it means to get and stay online. Meter delivers full-stack networking, wired, wireless, and cellular, all in one seamless, scalable, and secure solution. From hardware design and firmware to software, deployment, and support, Meter streamlines every part of your network while giving you all the control and transparency you need. Whether you're managing a branch office, retail stores, or a massive data center, Meter gives you performance, reliability, and the visibility you need to stay in control. Thanks to Meter for sponsoring. Go to securityweekly.com/meter to book a demo now. That's securityweekly.com/meter, METER. Zero Trust is clearly the future as threats get faster, quieter, and harder to detect. But implementing it shouldn't disrupt the business. ThreatLocker enforces default deny and execution in a way that remains enterprise-ready, scalable, and operationally clean. Unknown software is stopped cold, trusted apps stay contained, and drift is locked down across the environment. It's Zero Trust that works in real enterprises and prepares you for the threats ahead. See why CISOs are adopting it at securityweekly.com/threatlocker. Coming to you from the Hacker Syndicate Studios, this is Paul's Security Weekly. It's episode number 917, being recorded on Wednesday, March 11th, 2026. I'm, of course, Paul Asadorian, joined by Ms. Mandy Logan. Mandy, welcome.
Why, thank you. I liked how you mentioned the article about old vulnerabilities are new again?
Yeah, I thought that was a good one.
Oh, okay. And I think that goes with my motto that technology is cyclical. And every beeper salesperson agrees.
Yep. Mr. Larry Pesce is here with us.
Yes. About time or something. I don't know.
Something. It is time. It's time to do a podcast. Let's get through introductions first. Though Mr. Jeff Mann is here with us.
Hey, happy to be back on the show. And I'm happy to be out on my porch because the forecast was for 72 and it's about 85.
Nice.
That's Maryland.
Whew. Mr. Lee Neely is here with us.
Hey, not so 75 out here, but all next week we're supposed to get 70s, but today it's 52 right now. But cool.
Mr. Josh Marpet is here with us.
It's about 80 degrees here, and if you can see over my shoulder, the highs are going to be coming down the mountain range, whereas the lows are going to be Sorry, I couldn't resist.
Quick announcement. The RSA conference will be happening soon, and Security Weekly listeners can save $100 on their RSAC 2026 All Access Pass. RSAC 2026 conference will take place March 23rd through March 26th in San Francisco. You can register using the discount code by visiting securityweekly.com/RSAC26. Use the code 56U5SECWeekly. We hope to see you there. If you haven't done your RSA travel plans, you should probably do those soon.
Yeah. Although when was the last time you went out to San Francisco, Paul?
Probably 2020.
That year. So small factoid, they rebranded, I guess, last year. So it's technically now the RSAC conference, and the C stands for community.
Oh,
see, and I thought it stood for conference, but that's just
I thought it did too. That's why I didn't say the R. I didn't want like the
cyber, and you didn't know because you haven't been there. But you know, that was beat into us on Broadcast Alley last year. You have to say RSAC conference. So
it's
small
weird.
factoid.
And I just thought the C stood for California. Interesting.
Well,
I picked up on the added the C. I got that part. But.
And at this point, if you have not made travel arrangements, one of our guys just was like, "Hey, I might be a last minute addition," and it was something like $5,000 for hotel and flight just to get there, and that didn't include his pass. So he used to say he's going to be cheering from the sidelines.
Yeah, not one to slack on the travel plans.
I would say if you're not careful, you'll wind up with the guys in the cardboard boxes over on Folsom Street.
Yes. Although I did hear
even they're like $200 a night, Paul.
Right.
I did hear an interesting one. Gentleman that we work with used to work at CISA, and he said one of the time it took so long for CISA to approve some of the travel funds that Jen Easterly, who was speaking at RSA, the only place that she could get to stay was one of the hostels.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
And now she's running the show.
Yeah.
And
So did
nobody
you stay
from
there?
CISA
I
is
don't know.
going.
I think I've talked to some people who stayed there, and not great. Not horrible though, from what I heard. I think.
I'm trying to arrange an interview with
she
her.
did.
Yeah, I think we're getting an interview with her while we're at RSA. So
Nice.
That would rock.
Yeah, she told me she would do it, but I have yet to figure out how to make it work. So we'll see.
You might
one of
be
the
able
people
to
that's gonna be
entice her
at
with a
RSA.
chiropractor or a massage.
You know, I could get a massage chair and bring it in and bring a massage person in.
There you go.
We're too old to stay at hostels anymore.
Starting off on a light note,
Yeah.
I found a really cool documentary on the XZ Backdoor that was titled "The Internet Was Weeks Away from Disaster and No One Knew." And this comes from like a really popular channel that does like almost like documentary kind of stuff. Veritasium is the channel. They have like 20 million subscribers.
Veritasium?
Veritasium.
Like Veritas.
Veritasium.
Veritas like the
Veritasium.
software.
They're awesome.
Which is kind of funny. And this
Veritas,
video has
Latin for truth.
See, and that's why I thought it was like a tie to Harry Potter, because the Veritasium is the truth.
Oh, gotcha. Yeah. So this video has 10 million views, and it's all about like it starts off with the history of open source. It has a slight correction that the Linus's law was not actually defined by Linus Torvalds. It was actually Eric Raymond that coined the term Linus's law, that every bug is shallow. Oh, what is it? Given enough eyeballs, all bugs are shallow, which is interesting. But the documentary is really good. They do some really like crazy things to explain some of the technical details. So they try to explain the Diffie-Hellman key exchange using Paint. So I'd love to get people's take on that, because I thought it was really, I'd never seen it explained that way before.
If
So
only
I
we
thought
could
that was-
like run a clip showing it and then come back and talk about it.
Yeah,
That would
if
be
we had a
cool.
little more prep, if I was prepped for that, I probably could have.
Well, we could do it another
Joe.
time.
Yeah, for sure.
Diffie-Hellman's not changing.
Right. Very true.
What kind of is?
The XZ backdoor was, I don't know. I feel like sometimes we downplay it because we caught it in time, but it was just luck that we caught it in time. And I think sometimes
That was
underestimate the attacker's goal of backdooring every SSH on the planet for every Linux distribution. And the scary part was they almost pulled it off. I mean, they talk about how their code had a bug in it that had to do with like, I think it was the encoding. It had to do with like the malicious part of their code. And they submitted it to package maintainers, and they're like, "Hey, you have a bug." And then Gia10 fixed it and like submitted the bug fix, and then they committed the code, like still not realizing that it was malicious.
Well, also, but I thought I'd read this one that Gia10 had been like contributing and really helping him out, and so he got some creds. And the mainline maintainers were like busy and needed help, so they promoted him to a full-on. So he had basically update
Gia10 was in
access.
control of the XZ, but he was submitting it to like a Debian package maintainer, and they interviewed that Debian package maintainer in the documentary.
Yeah.
So like there's
So
stuff
that's
like
very
that in
cool.
there.
I was just saying this was ringing a complete bell, and then then when you said Gia10, the cogs meshed, and wow. And it was like somebody said their SSH login took like 400 milliseconds too long, and that's when they ran it down.
Yeah, it was performance. Someone doing performance analysis at Microsoft. I want to say it might have been at Microsoft.
I think you're right.
Oh, I know where I heard about it. It wasn't here. It was one of our presenters at the conference yesterday was talking about it, and it was like, holy crap! It's got to be he was watching this.
Yeah, we did actually. Eclipsium released a post today. That was maybe the reason I found this video was because we were doing some stuff with the XE backdoor in terms of detection. We've got some AI models that are tuned to detect changes like that. We released a blog post about it, so that was interesting and kind of tied to that. But yeah, some good nuggets in that. I mean, stuff that we know, but to see it presented and it kind of refreshes your memory, like why we have open source. Because of Richard Stallman and Linus Torvalds primarily. And Stallman needed to get a printer working and went to Xerox or something and said, hey, can I have the source code? And they told him no. And then he was like, well, you know what? This commercial software is bogus. I'm going to go create the Free Software Foundation and rewrite all the utilities as open source. And we all still benefit from that today. So that was kind of neat.
Yeah. Anyway, really cool find, by the way. It's sorry, I'm just stuck on the my SSH login is taking too long, so I found the back door.
Right.
I mean, think about that a second. I mean,
think about how lucky we got, right?
And I'm looking at a panel of people who could probably do that.
Oh,
you would react that your logins were taking too long.
Yes,
I don't know if I'd noticed. Yeah, I don't know if I'd noticed 400 milliseconds though.
400, no, unless you were tracking that
doing it a bunch, and all of a sudden it got
and that's what that person was doing, was tracking that constantly.
I don't get.
But there's a different question.
Upset until about 800 milliseconds.
Wow.
Wait.
Game
But
over.
there's a question: Is 400 milliseconds long enough for ADHD people to get distracted?
Well,
well, that's why it was never found. I'm sorry, I'm going to laughing me something now. Never mind.
I think Josh just won the internet. No, you can't return it.
Won it right before it was defunct.
You had a lot of stories about the impact of
a theme emerged with my stories.
Yeah, there was a theme there. The theme was how the war with Iran is impacting cybersecurity. Mm-hmm. So I don't know if you want to pick a place to start in your stories, because I haven't been tracking this as closely as apparently you have, which I'm glad that you are, because I've been distracted with other things.
Well, it started, and let me go to the notes to make sure I get the numbers right. It started this morning on my company's Slack channel. Mm-hmm. Somebody posted, where's the article page? There it is. Somebody posted the article. That is my story number. Oh, which one is it? I guess it's the first one. I guess I did it in order and it descended from there. Somebody said, yeah, my friend lost their laptop and their phone this morning because of this. And they clicked to this thing, this Striker cyber attack, which has wiped out this big, huge company. And everybody at the company is impacted. And they're saying that it's Iranian hacker groups doing it, which was... which sort of started me down the rabbit hole. And then I thought...
CISA issued a TLP green for the Striker attack, or they issued a TLP green for the conflict with Iran in general. I thought it was with Striker, but yeah, I think they might have something specific to Striker as well.
Well, I think Striker is the name of the company that was impacted. So it's not like the Striker attack, although it sounds like a cool attack, right? Striker. And there wasn't any detail when I was posting the stories this morning about what was the nature of the attack. But yeah, so I started finding different stories talking about it and, how cyber warfare is a thing. And, sort of what was that thing how many years ago that took out the Iranian nuclear plants, but also a lot of other things. What was that thing called?
That was Stuxnet.
Stuxnet. There's a lot of collateral damage, as it were, with cyber warfare. At least that's the way we've been taught. But also, there's this likelihood that, and I'm not saying Iran's doing this, but there's a likelihood that Iran's just striking out at whoever they can strike to, sort of get the ripple effect of an impact. And that's what's kind of scary about if we really do enter
but that's
cyber
kind of their
warfare.
MO. But
It
that's
is
kind of
kind of
their
their
MO,
MO.
right? Whether
Yep.
it's cyber or physical, they just kind of like whatever. They're very opportunistic in my assessment, right? They're just whatever we can target, we're going to target. And there's not a lot of strategy behind it. Whereas if you look at Russian or Chinese threat actors, especially Chinese, there's a narrative, there's a plan, right? I feel like there's a lot more strategy behind it.
Well, and I was watching the news this morning. I'll try to get the quote right. They were talking about how the Viet Cong won the Vietnam War, and they won the war by not losing the war. They didn't win the war, but they won the war by not losing, by outlasting everybody's tolerance of being at war. And they were talking about that's probably the Iranian strategy as well, is to just outlast everything. And then I thought it was, I've been looking for this it's March now. I've been looking for this since like last November or December, the National Cyber Strategy to be published. And it finally dropped, last Friday afternoon, late in the day. Things get dropped on Friday afternoons, I guess, because they think people won't pick up on it or something. But there's also dropped an executive order that said that they're going to focus on the combating cybercrime. And then there was a fact sheet, and the fact sheet to me was more complicated than the executive order. So I guess it came across as more like, to me, bullet points for people to pick up in the press and the media. But and it's funny because last night I happened to be in DC. There's a conference going on that's sort of military cyber or defense cybersecurity summit, and happened to run into our old friend who used to be our engineer, Johnny Five. And I met a guy from Idaho National Labs, and he's 4 years older than me, as it turns out. So we were, kind of talking shop.
Is that possible?
It is possible. So he's more like Lee's
good
age.
genes.
Yeah, genes,
But he was, somewhere we started talking about the national cyber strategy, and he was kind of laughing and saying, "Yeah, the big component of it is information sharing, especially about breaches." And he's like, "Yeah, we still don't do that. We've been trying to do that for 40 years almost, and it's still not happening. But this is the latest take on making that happen. So maybe it'll happen." So I just thought it was interesting that it dropped, because it's been in draft form for months, but it happened to drop, the week after we're engaged in a cyber war. So I guess somebody thought, hey, it's probably a good time to put it out there. So if the link is in the show notes to the actual
To that executive
strategy order? And not just the order, and the executive order and the fact sheet, and not just the an article talking about it or summarizing. Although I think I might have put one of those in there too, because it was written by lawyers.
Which number is that of yours, Jeff?
It sort of is
5.
It's sort of in descending
6.
order.
Yeah,
and 7 and 8.
Yeah. So interestingly, I've been getting email from the Los Angeles InfraGard chapter, and they had a webcast earlier in the month about the war in Iran, talking about the cyber impacts from a guy who spent 25 years in the CIA. And unfortunately, it wasn't a free one. It was $20 to view it. I'm trying to decide if I want to watch the replay because it sounded really cool. It touched on the stuff you're talking about, including their motivating factors.
Oftentimes we see Russian and Chinese threat actors, North Korea. We don't necessarily talk a lot about Iranian threat actors coming after targets. Maybe we will from this point moving forward. But again, I think it was a Three Buddy Problem was talking about kind of like the history of it. Like there's been a few incidents, there's a few groups that they're tracking, but like nothing compared to Chinese threat actors, right? There's like multiple groups operating out of China. And it is the Chinese threat actors primarily when I research I'll take the vulnerability that has been disclosed for insert your favorite or not favorite network edge security appliance network vendor here. So there's a vulnerability. Okay, now do we have any evidence that threat actors are leveraging that vulnerability? And most often, 90+% of the time, it traces back to a Chinese threat actor group. Now, attribution's hard, and there's all kinds of asterisks on that, right? But usually it feels more like Chinese threat actors. So I don't see a lot of Iranian threat actors, especially in the network security appliance kind of threat campaigns, which are all the rage today.
Do you
Actually,
consider
go ahead, Mandy.
do you consider hacktivist groups as part of if they're coming out of Iran, do you not consider them part of the threat actors?
No, I would still consider that threat actors. Yeah.
Okay, because I just queried Grok a little bit, and it was saying now
You used AI? It's all over, man.
I know. It's okay. We're getting married next week. So it says that there were over 60 hacktivist groups, including pro-Iranian and some pro-Russian collectives, that mobilized in the first 72 hours and have 149 distributed DDoS attacks. That's what it was confirming. And then I'm curious too on your take for anybody here. Like, my understanding is that CISA is operating at like 35 to 40% staffing.
If that.
That's our understanding, yeah.
Okay.
Staffing and funding has been cut as well. Like our friend Trevor Bryant.
Oh, yeah.
I saw him a couple weeks ago, and he's been on furlough for like a month.
Okay.
And there doesn't seem to be any end in sight.
So what impact do you think that has, or none at all?
Well, I mean, the core is still operating. Not much I can say, but if you're if you're trying to participate in the CNA program or interface with the U.S. CERT, once you get their attention, there are people working there responding to things. But my concern, to your point, Mandy, is the mission of CISA, Cybersecurity Infrastructure Security Agency. Obviously, our infrastructure would be a huge target, especially when we're at war with a country like Iran, and the assistance that they can provide to help shore up our defenses in our critical infrastructure is likely severely limited, right? So these programs might still be hobbling along, but I feel like their capabilities to actually move the needle to secure our infrastructure have been severely cut. Right. That's one area where I think has been cut badly, right?
Right. Well, and Jeff talking to his friends from INL that he met, INL, like the other national laboratories, haven't had a budget from Congress for a year. So like everything's running on the same level of funding, if any.
Interesting.
And so doing new research and new projects, very difficult. I had a guy I used to work with came to my conference yesterday. I was asking about it. It's a little rough. Even things like promotions are on hold because they don't have the ability to give somebody more money, which hurts because he just last year finished his PhD.
Yeah, and there's a lot of, we started talking this before the show. There's a relationship between, is it MITRE in Idaho National Labs?
I think
they do some of the work for MITRE for the CVE program.
Maybe.
Wait, say that again?
Maybe. I think that
I don't know.
Idaho National Labs there has some of they do some of the work for MITRE for the various CVE related programs.
It wouldn't surprise me.
Yeah, but I don't want to see any of that cut because that's like important. Like we've got vulnerabilities that need CVEs. Okay, and more every day.
Well, you know that they've been spreading that out and privatizing that by what is it, CNAs, by providing companies to be their own issuer of CVEs.
Correct.
And while the idea was, hey, you're right next to it, you found the CVE, you can issue it. And then they would just simply check it and make sure it was legit. They'd send it back for a rewrite if there's something like confusing or whatever.
Yeah, but I don't think that happens. So I have an example of that in my stories. And I want to read you some of the description from a recent CVE that was issued. Now, Intel released a whole series of patches, which they tend to do every other month. Every month, roughly. It's not a consistent cadence, but Intel will typically release 50 or 60 Intel security advisories at one time. Oftentimes that coincides with AMD and NVIDIA and Qualcomm. And so they're trying to organize like a what do they call it? Firmware Patch Tuesday or something like that. But when I was reading through some of the Intel ones, there was 6 or 7 that were related to UEFI and specifically SMM or system management mode, which has been, if you followed it like I have, that's a huge area where vulnerabilities crop up. And so Intel published the advisory, and I don't want to pick on Intel because I like great people that work at Intel. They do great stuff, but I don't know how this slipped through the cracks, to your point, Josh, that someone should be reviewing these. So they issued CVE 2025-20064. And in the description, it reads like this: system software adversary with a privileged user combined with a high complexity attack may enable local code execution. This result may potentially occur via local access when attack requirements are not present without special internal knowledge and requires no user interaction. The potential vulnerability may impact the confidentiality high, integrity high, and blah, blah, blah. Basically, kind of like restating the CVSS score in the description. I won't read the whole thing. But hearing you read that out loud, and then if you go back and read it,
that made my brain hurt. That made my brain hurt in about the first 8 words.
Yeah, it makes your brain hurt. I'm like, can we not just write English descriptions for the vulnerabilities? I don't understand.
So if you've got a local attacker who has a very hard to exploit vulnerability, but if they do, it's local execution and game over in terms of your CIA levels.
Lee, we need your help in translating.
I spent 38 years working in government.
For CNA. Yeah,
it still makes my head spin. I had to read it 4 times.
Yes.
It's just like, wait, this is difficult to do. You have to be local, and it doesn't require... Wait a minute.
Wait. What? One word. Privileged user, second word. Yeah. An admin can do nasty shit. There, I wrote it. Seriously, that's what it is.
Yeah.
Is that all?
Is that what it's saying?
That's it. System software adversary with a privileged user.
The first sentence is easier to decipher. The second sentence is where things go like
if you have admin privileges, you can do nasty stuff. Okay.
And by the way, why do I need a privilege escalation account if I've already got privilege?
Ding, ding, ding.
But when it gets to when attack requirements are not present without special internal knowledge and requires no user interaction. Also, the English is absolutely atrocious. The grammar is
I have
terrible.
to be an insider.
Gee, I wonder why we're struggling with the language of this thing. What possibly could be behind
I think AI could write a better description than this, Jeff. Or the person that wrote it is English is their second language.
I was going to say AI wrote it, but that's a different.
That's what I was leaning towards, but. A properly trained AI could write a better one. How's that, Paul?
Yeah, 100%. I just don't know. Like, I can't for the life of me figure out how this gets published from Intel. That they put out a description of a vulnerability that makes you scratch your head. Like, it doesn't benefit Intel really in any way to put out a description like this. I think it makes people like us that read it complain, like, why does my brain hurt when I read descriptions of your vulnerabilities? Because it shouldn't, because you're Intel and you should have people that can write an accurate, well-written description of a vulnerability. They absolutely have those people.
I think
whoever found their vulnerabilities
they did.
Well, whoever wrote it was obviously direct and clear in their mind, and then they got sign off. But to me, it also sounds like 80% probability that the authors that their first language may not have been English.
Yeah.
Oh. So it's exceedingly logical, but it's harder to comprehend.
If you trace back, what's interesting is if you trace back the reporter of this. So this is Intel SA 01234. Imagine that. There's a number of different CVEs that are covered in this one. And if you scroll all the way down and you get to acknowledgements, Intel would like to thank Volponer. And Volponer, just want to see if they were responsible for that. 264 was reported by Volponer. And if you go down the rabbit hole and you look up who Volponer is prolific security researcher that has disclosed a lot of vulnerabilities in CPUs and UEFI, and has co-authored some of those vulnerabilities with a known person who is from China. Like kind of maybe a dotted line that the person is Chinese and maybe English is a second language.
Mm.
And again, I have nothing really to confirm that other than very light research. That's what it told me. So interesting.
You segued
and
to
that
this.
person's anonymous, which is kind of interesting. I don't know. Something I need to unravel on a future date, maybe.
I mean, I think I put a story in about de-anonymization type of stuff, but we don't have to cover that now.
Yeah, right. We could, yeah. I mean, if we wanted to put the work in, but I don't know. I kind of want to hire that person, actually, for my day job. But, yeah, anyway.
You had segued off of the whole war thing, and I did have one more comment on it before we really move on.
Yeah.
I think part of what's scary about the whole notion is, most of what we've been talking about for years in terms of vulnerabilities and exploitations and breaches have to do with monetization, and that's kind of the motive. But cyber warfare is a little bit of a different beast because warfare has to do with destruction, and I don't think most organizations are really prepared for that.
No.
And critical infrastructure in particular. But I always fall back on, if the bad guy du jour is China, why would China blow up the place where it's making all its money economically? It sort of has a vested interest in engaging in commerce with, this nation. Iran, not so much necessarily. So, there's a Geneva Convention that in the Geneva Convention on the rules of warfare, there's talk about things that you don't target. And I don't know that has ever been extended into the cyber battlefield. That's something I'd have to research unless somebody knows off the top of their head.
Not off the top of my head.
All that to say is we're living in perhaps uneasy times.
That much is certain.
All right, so move on. Let's talk about another vuln. What's happening in the UFI world?
That was my only UFI related story. And it really, the focus wasn't UEFI. The focus was we got to write better descriptions for vulnerabilities and a better approval. I mean, maybe it speaks to how staffing is not going at CISA, MITRE, in the various CVE programs where there's just not enough people to really scrutinize. I mean, because there's so many CVEs being submitted. And also, if you're a CNA, I don't think is it reviewed before it's published? I think it's a CNA.
If it's a CNA,
you are in control.
But MITRE and NIST are supposed to do a secondary review, as I understand it. I could be wrong. But there's supposed to be the backstop. You know what I mean?
Was that?
And also remember that CISA is supposed to be using those to add to the KEV.
Right.
So they're supposed to be doing this stuff properly. But unfortunately, with the staffing situation, I mean, honestly, now I'm curious. Has anything been added to the KEV recently?
Yeah.
Yes. Excuse me. Yes.
At the same rate that it was before all of this started happening? I'm kind of curious.
Are you going through a tunnel and you're breaking up?
It seems to me that the cadence has been steady, Josh.
Okay.
And I think largely because they collect the data about what to add to the KEV from private companies. They're not, their
not
mission
harvesting
is not,
it.
Yeah, they're not. They don't have honeypots and all that stuff set up. They might have some on their own, but largely they're relying on private companies. And they don't disclose who they are. I'm just, kind of reading between the lines, like Mandiant, Google, maybe Fortinet Labs, that have a lot of stuff deployed and or are doing the incident response and forensics investigations go, hey, look, this vulnerability was used in this attack, and we have evidence of that. And they take that evidence and they send it to CISA. CISA validates that as best they can, and they go, "Yup, this the exploitation of this vulnerability was used in the wild. Therefore, we're going to add it to the KEV."
Well, remember, the Kev has to have a patch or a fix, right? Doesn't it?
Technically, yes, but there are exceptions.
Okay.
Sometimes the Kev says patch or
Get rid of it.
discontinue use.
Right.
So they can just say discontinue use. I did a quick lookup. Then in 23, there were 187 adds to the Kev. 24, 185, and 25, 245. So,
well, that's also, I think, my theory on that, Lee, because we're not the first person to present that data. And then the next logical question is why, how are they adding so many more? I think it's they added more data providers, right? They had more partners that are
because
observing
25,
more stuff.
they got a bunch more providers. If I remember, I mean, that was my impression. They got a bunch more provider.
So
which is good. I think more providers, the better, right? Mm-hmm. It's more eyes on the problem and more observability. Also, the Kev is not the end all be all either. There is stuff that is actively exploited, not on the Kev. I actually like, props to Patrick Garrity and the team at VulnCheck. I like the VulnCheck known exploited vulnerability list as well. They will often supplement. They have a browser plugin from VulnCheck, and anytime there's a CVE, you can hover over it and get the VulnCheck entry, and it'll tell you right in there if it's on the VulnCheck Kev or on the CISA Kev, and give you like some basic information about it. Nice. I think it's an awesome tool. I actually didn't incorporate the VulnCheck API in my project in favor of just using the browser plugin, so that's kind of where I'm at now. But there are other indicators of compromise that I think is important to recognize, right? I don't want to get into what's a proof of concept, what's we've covered that before, I think. Yeah. But speaking of stuff that you should get off your network, might be on the Kev. D-Link is usually one of those, right? And my number 12 is the D-Link exploit repo. I forgot how I found. I went down a rabbit hole. If I looked at the most recent CVEs that were issued that had public exploits, because I wrote a tool that queries that stuff, and some of the ones that were on there were D-Link, and there was a bunch of D-Link ones, and it all went to the same repo, and then I just kind of backed off the actual CVE from the repo to come up with that link. So if you hit that link, there is a whole bunch, probably 20 plus CVEs. Each has a folder. It was committed last week, and each of those represents an exploit for D-Link. So if you're looking for D-Link exploits, that's the place to look. But also, to your point, Lee, when those get added to the Kev, or if they get added to the Kev, the advice is usually discontinue use, right? Because a lot of those could be for products that have firmware that is end of life or end of support.
Yeah.
I mean, this is a list of just 25 and 26, and it's that long. Think about that a second.
Yes.
I mean, ouch, D-Link.
Let's be honest. Nobody's using D-Link in the enterprise, right?
Of course not.
No.
It sneaks in.
Shadow IT.
Shadow IT is one for sure. Also, what do they call them? Like flyaway kits or whatever. Like you build a kit for your enterprise, so because someone needs to go somewhere, give a presentation, run a conference, a training or something, and they're like, I need a kit that has, I need networking in there or Wi-Fi, and so
here's $50. Go to Best Buy.
Yeah, they don't give you your Aruba or any of that gear, right? They give you the D-Link gear or Netgear or whatever. Which, I mean, if you're maintaining that, it's fine. But the problem is D-Link has produced so many different routers and firmware and they've stopped support of them, that now there is just mountain of firmware and code that they're not updating. And so it's ripe for the picking to go find vulnerabilities.
Josh, you answered hey, does anybody use D-Link in the enterprise? Well, I go to their website, and the first thing that they have is scalable IIoT connectivity for industrial applications, industrial switches, comprehensive network management with a guy wearing a suit.
I see a research project coming up, man.
Oh boy, I see some auctions coming into Larry's radar.
Well, it's interesting. I've been wondering if I were to go back and look at these IoT network vendors and who has a bug bounty program, and then go acquire the firmware that is in scope for that bug bounty program, and then just start running that through Claude, because I have a lot of Claude sessions trained on analyzing firm. That's actually my primary tool. Well, the interface, I should say, that runs other tools in the background that I guide it, that is reverse engineering firmware, and could probably get some bug bounty. It's on my list. Yeah. And everyone should do it.
Maybe that explains
it would only help.
The uptick in vulnerability reporting this year is so many people are pointing AI at discovery.
But you have to validate them. You don't submit AI slop, right? And AI has gotten, when I talk to the open source project maintainers, they're actually saying it's getting a little better. They're able, I think they use, it's funny because they're using AI to triage the bug reports, but they're able to identify the AI slop a lot better. And actually in our interview next week, our guest will have an awesome take on that. We're interviewing Pancake, who works for NowSecure and is the creator and lead developer for the Radare and Radare 2 projects that are disassemblers and reverse engineering tools.
Not to be confused with hacks for pancakes. This is another pancake.
Different
pancake. Okay.
So I, if I could for a second, I want to take a half step backward to the Geneva Convention question.
Yes.
I did a quick little bit of looking, and basically there are groups that want it extended to include cyber. But there's language in it like all means and methods or all forms of warfare, so that they believe it covers cyber because they've got the word all in there. And all forms, all means, all methods, basically any way they attempt to attack is covered.
Well, and like every other legal document, it's only going to be sorted out once there's case law.
Right. And I'm not a lawyer, nor do I play one on TV. I know a few, but... Anyway, moving on. But
are we moving on? Are we moving on to a different story?
Yeah.
Well,
because you guys want to cover one of your stories? Oh, let's talk about the iOS one. Karuna.
Where was
the
that
mysterious journey? It was your number one, Lee. The mysterious journey of
that
a
one,
powerful iOS exploit kit. I saw this. I didn't dig into it. I know this came from Google's threat intelligence group. And this is quite the exploit kit for iOS.
Yeah,
I mean, we regard iOS and iPhones as having some pretty good security around them.
But this was not a good year. 23 and 21 was not a good year for iOS security. I mean, it was 13 and 17, which hopefully none of us are running, except on maybe a test or burner device that we're experimenting with. But you remember there was that period when they were really, they continually getting, in that race condition with Pegasus. It works on this version of iOS. It doesn't work. It works on the next one. I think this was the same kind of thing. But the article from Google was neat. It was like, I had to read it in a hurry the other day, and it's like, holy cow, I got to remember this. What has it got? 5 exploit chains in it or something? It's got a whole bunch of exploit chains, 23 exploits altogether. It's crazy.
If there ever was a case for it, you need to make sure your iOS is up to date. This is it.
Yeah.
Hey, one more quick backtrack to our previous discussion. Shark in our chat, because there's people that listen to us record this live.
Holy cow, Shark's here.
They posted a link to the known exploited vulnerabilities catalog put out by America's Cyber Defense Agency, and splashed across the top says, due to the lapse in federal funding, this website will not be actively managed.
Oh, damn.
Ouch.
Damn.
Oh,
Sharks, that's amazing.
Yeah, you
Good
see
catch,
that now?
Shark. Thank you. Yes.
Yeah. Thank you, Shark.
Wow.
And
Good job, Shark.
We all feel a little bit worse now.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you.
We feel a lot
You
bit
suck.
worse.
Yeah.
Okay, so stop.
I mean-
Let's talk about this for a second, because now we're seeing active evidence that the CVE infrastructure and processes are broken.
Right.
The CNAs are barely able, Paul, you were screaming and whining about how you were trying to become a CNA and you couldn't get it done. And I mean, is
Which
it
I
done
did.
yet?
I did finally. Yeah. So I did. I will say that the process is not broken, that the staff is just overwhelmed. The process is actually, I mean, I'll just talk about it. The process is actually really good, right? The process is great. It's a little hard to get the process started. Again, that's a lot of funding and just people, lack of funding and people being overwhelmed. But once it's started, it's a very clear process. There's tons of documentation. You talk to real people who are amazing and doing great work. And it's very clear. There's training. There is validation that you, as before you become a CNA, that you understand the CVE records and how to create them. And there's a process to actually test your abilities and discussion on that. So there is a validation process that you go through, and once you do that, like you're basically off the and again, there's videos, there's tons of documentation, and it's a very good process. And I think a good model, although incentives come into play that might maybe corrupt that process, but as long as CNAs are being somewhat honest with themselves, it is a good process to go through. So I do like it.
Let me ask you a question. If a CNA isn't honest with themselves or with their constituents, God, I don't even know what to say.
Yeah. So there are checks and balances.
Okay.
Right?
Explain.
So as a CNA, I create the CVE record. I can add the enrichment data. Then not all of it is required, but for example, you're going to put a score. So I'm going to score it, CVSS score. I'm going to put maybe a CWE attached to it. Maybe a CPE, right? If I'm really feeling advantageous, I might do some of my own enrichment as a CNA when I create the record. Then what happens is NIST and or CISA, so those are authorized data providers or ADPs, can also enrich and or add to that data. So you've seen it before. I think I've shown examples on the show where a CNA will score the vulnerability of 7, and then NIST will come along in NVD and they'll score it. Typically, the NIST will score it higher than the CNA. Right. So go back to Intel as an example. They produce a score. When NIST comes along and enriches that, historically, the NIST score will be higher. Right. And some of that is just the vendor doesn't want to make a bigger deal out of the vulnerability than it is. And given that fact, we do have these checks and balances. Now, CISA will also come in and they have they're an authorized data provider, but they'll also have the full enrichment project as well. And they will take select CVE records and they will enrich that data with their own fields. So they have fields for independent of KEV. CISA will indicate if there's a proof of concept exploit available for that vulnerability, which is the only official source of data for that type that I'm aware of. So in my internal tool, I bring all of this together so you can see it all in one screen, right? All in one entry. I can see what the CNA scored. I can see what NIST scored. I can see CISA's full enrichment. I can see how they have it's like a proof of concept. They have I don't know if there's a probability or likelihood, an impact. So they have some of their own fields that they use to score it with, in addition to indicating whether there's active exploitation in addition to a proof of concept. So the checks and balances are there. Jeff, you have a question.
A question and a comment. Is it fair to say that the push for more companies to become CNAs, they're only really going to be reporting on their own things? Or
great question. When you apply to the CNA program, you disclose which products you are going to be assigning CVEs to. So companies that do security research, and there's a number of them that are already Vulncheck, for example, right? CNA. In Vulncheck in their record and in our record too, right? We filed it as we are going to report vulnerabilities for other companies' software for ones that we've discovered, right? And if we discover or someone else discovers a vulnerability in our own product, we will also be the CNA for those as well. So it's a dual purpose. Yeah.
So tying this back to the national cyber strategy, one of the pillars is increased collaboration. And I was sitting here earlier thinking, it sure seems like a left-hand, right-hand thing going on with cyber strategy saying, we need to have more data sharing and collaboration. And it seems very one-sided the way it's set up right now, with CISA being handcuffed, because of funding issues. But then I'm wondering if it's more essentially a push to privatize this, push it out, just like so many other things in the government. They're trying to downsize the government and push things out into the private sector. Does anybody else see that? Is that ultimately a good thing or a bad thing?
I think in this context, it's not a horrible thing, given that there are some checks and balances, right, in the system. And I think it really hinges upon that. I don't think we want to give the CNAs as an example, just carte blanche. You can publish whatever you want, whenever you want, right? There has to be someone managing the central process, right? We don't want to willy-nilly.
But here's the thing. Who can do that? Because look, I don't mean any rudeness, but any commercial company that's going to manage this process is going to have a bias.
Sure.
You need a nonprofit or a government agency managing this process.
Oh, I agree. The main function managing the process needs to be the neutral kind of third party. Private companies, be giving them a little more control to help alleviate some of the burden, I don't think is a bad thing. We still have to, right? But we still have to take it in context. We have to take it in context too. So that means when you're defining what your response should be to a vulnerability, and the CNA has scored it or done something, you can take that with a grain of salt and understand there could be bias in there, and look at other enrichment efforts or data to help form your decision, not just one source.
And if you look at how MITRE is partnering, they partner with other federally funded research and development organizations.
Yes.
They're not partnering with the private sector. They're partnering with the public sector. The interesting thing about this, as I'm skimming through that, cyber strategy, there's talk about modernizing and moving to zero trust and other things that cost a shitload of money. But without money, without a budget, you really can't go anywhere. And these are folks that have been in online and IT for decades. There's a lot of legacy.
So how does it all get funded if it does move towards privatization with the
probably grants and other you can.
But that's the kind of stuff that's not there right now.
Right. Yeah. But there are actually a number of initiatives had funding tied to them, and you could, as a private entity, apply for it and get the funding and the job.
There needs to be a telethon. Oh, that's not the right term. But I mean, I'm like
Jerry's Kids.
Public radio's been lost federal funding, but they're still going. But they're relying a lot more on private donations. So I wonder if something like private donations in our industry in this context is something that everybody needs to chip in. All organizations and vendors need to chip in to make this thing sustainable.
It kind of ties into, did you guys read Adrian's article on reevaluating vulnerability management? This comes from Adrian Sanabria. Yeah. I mean,
I've talked to him about it last week when we were together. So somewhat familiar.
Yeah. I mean, he's talking about much of what we've been talking about in the context of vulnerability management. And I think that the elephant in the room now is, while vulnerability management, I won't declare it dead, but it's too late. Like the title of my slide when I talk about this now is the time to patch was yesterday.
Yeah.
Because there's significant amounts of data that show attackers are increasingly using zero-day exploits, and the time from a vulnerability being disclosed or announced to exploitation has shrunk from, in 2018, 2.3 years until today, which is 1.6 days. And some data points to it's 0 days that the vulnerability is being exploited as a 0 day, and then a patch comes out. So it's already being exploited by the time a patch is even available, let alone the time it would take you to apply said patch.
That's your article number 2, right?
0 clock. Well, Adrian's is number 2. I'm going to share my screen and show you this awesome website that I found on LinkedIn. And Adrian talks about this website in his article as well. And it's called zerodayclock.com.
Yeah.
If you guys have seen this, can I not? It won't let me.
I can see it.
Won't let me do that.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
We're looking at it.
So from vulnerability to exploitation, right? This is the one I was just talking about.
Mm-hmm.
It also has an overlay for weaponized exploits as well, which is interesting. So in 2025, there was 471 weaponized exploits, and the time to exploitation in 2025 was 23.2 days and has shrunk to 1.6. And again, some data points to it's negative days, right? Negative days. And then you have the 0-day rate, right? And I think we talked about this like in 2018 timeframe. We're like, yeah, 0 days are a thing, but mostly attackers are exploiting stuff that the vulnerability has been around for a while. Well, if you march through time up until today, there are 67.2 vulnerabilities being exploited at 0 days. The 0-day rate has increased dramatically, whereas the majority of things being exploited today, as you see from the 50% majority line right there, right, are being exploited as 0-day, which calls into question our traditional methods of vulnerability management.
Well, so which begs the question, do we have a universally agreed upon definition of what is a 0-day, and has that definition evolved over for the chart that you were showing the last 8 years? Is today's 0-day the same thing as what 0-day was in 2018?
I think it is.
Okay, just asking the question. The elephant in the room then is, and I don't know if it's in Adrian's article. I saw it recently, a Jen Easterly quote saying, and I don't have it memorized, but something about, the real problem is just there's a lot of bad software out there.
Yeah.
And we wouldn't have to rely on vulnerability management and CVEs if secure code was being written in the first place. So maybe, I don't know how this happens, but maybe it's a time to shift the way we do things.
Yeah, the problem is we've already created way too much code. Like that ship kind of sailed.
So what the one I thought was interesting, and you didn't get to it, Paul, is the very last graph, which is actually the hardest of them to understand, is they call it the exploit survival curve, and it basically has a graph of how many 0 days from each year are sticking around. In other words, they've been fixed, and 2026 it's 0. It's one of those where it's showing us they're lasting less and less time before they get used, and so in 2018 it took a lot longer for somebody to discover and use a 0-day.
Yes,
it's an interesting trend. Remember, we used to say people saved a 0-day for something important; they didn't just use it, and I don't think that's true anymore. I mean, people are burning 0 days, which is weird. I mean, they have a strategic value,
but I think for certain platforms too.
Yeah, well, okay,
right.
But
did Adrian touch on, or have you given any thought or analysis to? Where was I going? I had a thought and I lost it. Never mind. It'll come back to me. Keep talking.
Or not, Jeff. You're old, so.
Oh, damn!
Could be gone forever.
Jeff, just get used to CRS and embrace it.
I keep wanting to take that medicine that I see on the morning news that improves your memory, but I can never remember what the name of it is.
By the way, the next step, Jeff, is door disease. You walk to the door and you don't remember what you came in the room for.
Yeah, that happens. Somewhere right now, an attacker is testing the parts of your app your security tools cannot reach. The authenticated areas, the login flows, the hidden functionality behind credentials. Secure AI Navigator changes that. It automatically navigates real login flows just like an attacker would, exposing vulnerabilities and data leaks hiding behind authentication across user roles, session states, and authenticated API calls. No scripts to write, no brittle automation to maintain, just complete coverage in minutes instead of days. Because "we didn't test behind login" are the worst words in an incident report. Learn more at securityweekly.com/nowsecure.
Oh, I remembered. Is the shift to more 0 days? Has anybody given any analysis or thought to why this is happening? Is it because patching is improved and all the old stuff that used to get used regularly has actually been fixed? Or is it easier to just use the O days now rather than hunt for things? I mean, is it an opportunistic thing? Has anybody given any analysis to why the shift is occurring?
I think AI could be one of them. It's easier to create exploits. And I'm not saying you're just prompting your AI like, hey, here's this software, go find me some 0-day exploits, because that doesn't really work. But as a tool that speeds along the process.
Well, I thought it was a gun to the head and something else happening. And
that's just in the movies, Josh.
Yeah, but I think you're onto something, Paul. I think that the analysis point, the process that allows the vulnerability to be discovered has speed up a lot, and I'm sure AI is a piece of that.
Well,
I don't know if
Sergey,
it's the whole story, but it sure is. Finding the vulnerabilities faster.
I know I've harped on this, but remember Sergey?
Sergey Bradis.
And he's Sergey Bradis, and he said that he was talking about this. When did we interview him? A year ago?
2 years ago, maybe?
2 years ago.
Maybe three.
Yeah.
And he said that the amount of time it takes them to find a vulnerability is getting shorter because they are not just simply randomly looking around an application. They are predicting where the vulnerabilities will be found due to the complication of the code and the technology. He said in a matter of a few years, and by God, I think he's right, they will not actively look at the application at all. They'll simply say it's going to be there because this technology always has a vulnerability. Like they will learn it's not the language, but it's the mindset of vulnerability finding. Right. And maybe he's right.
Or maybe there's because of AI, things like AI, more people are able to find the 0 days these days, where it used to be relatively few skilled people that were focused on looking for the things.
Yeah. And finding the vulnerability is one thing. Creating a weaponized exploit is yet a different thing. And you'll struggle with public models to get you to create a full weaponized exploit, even if you try and fool it a little bit. Sometimes it balks at you, but not to say that you don't have an AI model with the guardrails removed. Right. Threat actors have those. So
But speaking of guardrails, my story number 6, which was, I don't want to throw Wikimedia under the bus. It was they were testing some code and they tested in production and then found, and the vulnerability took out production. This is what I was thinking about. It was a reminder to, sandbox things appropriately when you're checking them out. And I actually found a quote from John Pescatore on this one where he said, just like the diffusing bombs shouldn't say cut the red wire after cutting the green wire, you shouldn't test malicious code in a non-oscillated spot. But I don't know. When's the last time you tested in the wrong environment? I've done it, but not recently. Yeah, Larry looks at his watch. So it means we're all human, which is good. We can all make mistakes.
Yep, absolutely.
At least they were able to recover. So Wikimedia rolled back, by the way. They fixed their environment by rolling it back and then apologizing, which cool. By the way, kudos for somebody to say, hey, we messed up publicly. Which is a little different from my EU story where they're saying, even if you're stupid, so what was happening is that there was a customer who was phished and put all their banking email into a site, and the bank was refusing them to give a refund, even though EU says the first step is to refund the money if the customer gets bilked. But the bank was saying this was so incredibly obvious that they were simply an idiot. Of course, that's not quite how they phrased it.
Interesting.
Gross
And so what happened?
negligence.
Gross
So
negligence.
yeah, did they have to pay it out or?
I think they're basically, well, this isn't the final deal, but I think the because they're saying gross negligence by the customer, but they're saying we need to pay it out, and then it goes to court or something before you try and get your money back as a bank. But you have to follow EU law, which says pay first, even if the customer was stupid.
Wow.
Well, I could see some of that, and being in my role as a credit union director, I've seen some of the backstory on some of the things like this that happen when it comes to fraud. But for the most part, even here we see that the customer gets made whole first, and then they do the investigation. And if they don't, it's provisionally, and then if it turns out it was.
That's interesting that that's
the
being applied to individuals. There was a vendor last week at Zero Trust World that on their banner they had some quote to the effect of, cybersecurity or the industry that we live in. It's where the victims are treated as the offenders, and we certainly do that. When it's a large organization that's been breached, we're like, how did they let this happen? It's usually some cascading. A bunch of things that they should know better for, but it's always been very unique that the victims of cybercrime are very often treated like the offender because it's their fault.
Yeah. No, I mean, until you really know what happened, innocent until proven guilty. You got to prove somebody was.
But why are we talking about innocent and guilt? When we're talking about victims,
I was trying to find a parallel.
Well, there is a parallel, but it's
it wasn't a good choice of phrasing,
right?
Assume the victim really was a victim, and
Well, the only other place I know of that's analogous to this is in the world of sex crimes.
Yes, I know.
And that's what I was saying. My mic was turned off. Yeah, exactly.
Well, welcome back, Mandy.
So, Mandy,
yes. Same. I was going to say victim shaming and blaming. I definitely know it in other crimes, and most commonly in sexually based ones.
It's an interesting phenomenon, but and we as professionals, certainly they should know to change their default password or things like that. And yet,
here's the problem.
Still an issue to this day.
Here's the problem. We teach them to do that, but then we go, "Did they listen?" And the answer is, "Dude, they actually have work to do."
People have lives. How do you keep up on everything across every domain in a family's life?
Hell, I can't keep up on every domain in security. I gave up on that years ago.
Exactly.
I mean,
how do you keep up on all the new threats? Like, Paul, did you hear the new one that's going around our state?
No.
Is it the phishing? Sorry, the text-based phishing scam is that you need to PayPal or something. The registry of motor vehicles, $36 to register your lawnmower. Welcome to spring.
Really?
You need to register your lawnmower. $36, please. It was on the news.
Actually
it was on the news tonight. It was on the news tonight.
And that's working for people?
Yeah.
I've got to ask. If I sent out a message, hey, it's it's testicular cancer month. $20 to register your left testicle and $20 to register your right testicle. Would people pay?
Oh, this stuff keeps
How about
happening.
30 if you register both at the same time? You get a discount.
Give you a discount.
I don't know, Josh.
I
think it's a small amount of people, but you've got to.
And we just figured out how to fund
scams that
vulnerability
go on where people
disclosure.
believe they're marrying Elon Musk or Brad Pitt or whoever.
Right.
So
if they
I
didn't
always
work,
offer the scammers money.
$10 billion.
But to Larry's point,
$100 million.
If it didn't work, they wouldn't keep doing it, and it does. It works.
it works. Yeah.
Yeah. For the same thing for the little that it costs them to do any of that stuff, the return is well worth it for what. I mean, don't get me wrong. It's illegal, so if you get caught, maybe it isn't worth it. But most of the time they're probably not going to get caught. I don't know.
Oh, it's a funny story about that. So we caught a malware sample in our honeypot. And after we looked at it, one of the things that was interesting is it was a crypto miner and the very, very poor OPSEC. But one of the interesting points was they were hosting it in Alibaba Cloud, and we got their wallet address. And since the blockchain is public, you can see the transactions and how much was in the wallet. And it was about $400. And when I was analyzing some of this with Claude was like, they may not even be covering their cloud hosting costs with this campaign. It made me think of that. I was like,
ooh, burn, Claude, burn.
Right?
That's awesome.
I was joking with my coworker. I'm like, because, we may or may not have had to alter the password to the wallet. But I was like,
I figured,
if we just magically retire tomorrow, you'll understand why. But when we found out how it was in there, I'm like, we can't even buy a stick of DRAM with what was in this wallet. So,
Paul, that would be hilarious in my opinion. If you have the password for said wallet, you can transfer funds out of it. Just go find some random Bitcoin wallet address on the internet somewhere, and transfer it to them.
Yeah, like a Robin Hood attack. Yeah.
Well,
stealing from the threat actors and giving to charity.
If you instead of trying to buy a stick of DRAM, you went after something a little more affordable, like a Lamborghini. You really could probably buy it.
Yeah.
Oh man, the chip prices are going up. So
and try to find a Mac Studio right now. Good bloody luck.
Yeah.
Or what now?
Or a Mac Mini even.
I hadn't even looked for one in a while. It's used to look at those and they get like scarcer than hen's teeth.
They are non-existent at the moment.
Crazy.
That's because they've got like all the ability to run your own local models.
Unified
really well.
memory, which means you get 100. If you get 128 meg or 128 gig Mac Studio, you have 192 gigs of unified VRAM.
Yep.
So, in a box the size of a toaster, less than a toaster. So good luck finding anything right now, by the way. If you're looking for RAM, NVMEs, Mac Studios, Mac Minis, you're screwed.
I haven't looked recently. It's probably worse than when I looked, isn't it?
Oh, yeah. By the way, the machines that you built a year ago or 2 years ago or whatever?
Yeah.
Doug priced out a new one of his, and it was 3 times the price. Try 7 times the price.
So I'll be auctioning off this 4 terabyte. I'm going to start the bid at $5,000.
Nice. See, I didn't. But I think it's sitting on the front porch right now. I didn't have to go that big. I think I did 128 gig because I've got some projects over there on the bench that are. And I sent you guys a picture of one of them, repurposing some old stuff, and it needed bigger drives. But I really didn't need all that much. And it's been crazy to try to get one. Even 128 gigs were reasonably priced, but it's taking forever to get here because they ran out and people are just buying them anyways. So, stupid.
Hold on to your stuff. Thankfully, I have enough computing devices to hopefully last me until we can weather this storm.
Yeah. Keep an eye on your junk.
Yeah, Larry, what did you do? You converted let's talk about that.
Yeah. Hold on, let me undo that real quick here, because so the old Pony Express Pro boxes.
It's so awesome. Those are really interesting and awesome hardware, right?
They're Intel NUCs with a bunch of USB 2 internal ports. And the way they were doing the Bluetooth detection on these was they were actually using one of those Pirani Sena UD100 Bluetooth adapters internally with an external antenna. In the case.
Yeah,
so I pulled
sent me that picture. Yeah.
I pulled them apart, sent one to you guys. And I took an RTL SDR and put it in one of them. So I'm going to have RTL SDR in one of them. And the other one I removed the case from a HackRF. And there's a HackRF inside of one of them.
That's awesome.
You put a HackRF along with a Sena SD100. Damn.
No, I pulled the Pirani Sena, but it could have fit because there's more than enough USB ports internal to do that. I just wanted a remote station for doing RF stuff.
That's awesome.
And how many of those do you have stashed around your house?
What's that?
How many of those do you have stashed around your house?
Did you get one from the
right
studio? The one in
Yeah.
the studio was in pieces. You did get it? Did you find
yeah.
all the pieces?
Yeah, well, I
enough
didn't-
pieces to.
I didn't find the power supply, so that I'm on a
Of
hunt
course.
for. But I'll find it. It's there or not.
The irony is,
I've got a box
there's
full of
whole
power
bunch
supplies.
there's a whole bunch of bins with power supplies, but never the one that would match the device that is missing the power supply. That was one of the wonders of the studio.
Yep.
Well, and then in the box of power supplies, odds are the one that's the right voltage and amperage has got the reverse polarity.
Yeah, or the wrong plug on the end.
One of those two.
Yeah.
But
I have a soldering iron.
I always thought Larry had a soldering iron.
Larry always has a soldering iron. Let's be honest here.
It's
Okay.
it's actually
now
in
he's bragging.
that drawer right there.
How many other drawers have soldering irons in them?
Just that one. The rest of them are in the workshop.
See. It wasn't that you don't have any more. It was that the rest of them are in the workshop.
Yes.
Oh,
Yes.
and speaking of hardware, I had some ESP32 kind of stories. So one is LilyGo is getting ready to debut Spark,
What
a
is that?
cross-platform hub and flash tool for ESP devices. So if you've used the M5 stack gear and you've used M5 burner, startup M5 burner, and it's a marketplace for all different firmware images that people have created and a flashing tool all in one. So you can say, I have this device and I want this firmware. It downloads the firmware and then allows you to flash it to your device. So LilyGo must have been like, that's really cool. We want our own version of that. And that's what Spark is. It lets you browse, search, and download official community firmware for LilyGo devices. So they'll have their own marketplace now for LilyGo devices, where seemingly you'll be able to do the same kind of thing. So I thought it was cool. It's still in beta. They're getting ready to roll it out, but
And they are looking for
concept.
testers right now.
Yeah, so go for it. Test it. And then speaking of flashing devices, someone created a Go tool called ESP Flash. It's similar to ESP Tool, the Python one that is from the official Espressive tool for flashing.
Yeah.
Now, the official Python tool from Espressive has a lot more features. However, if you just want a small flasher written in Go, or you want Go native code that can flash your ESP devices, I guess someone might need that somewhere. ESP Flash is definitely your choice. But again, not feature compatible with the tried and true ESPtool.py script, which I use a lot. So some interesting ESP32 stuff.
Speaking of ESP32s and little fun devices you can hold in your hand, talk about that IR Flipper Zero
yes.
module.
This was on Tindy, and I like using Tindy to buy some of this stuff.
Good stuff.
Where was that? Yeah.
Your story number 5,
Isn't
Paul.
that 5?
Yeah, so people get like their own like makerspace and they create stuff, and then Tindy's a marketplace where they sell it. It is not an adult dating site like my wife thought it was when she saw the credit card bill the first time. Like, no, it's electronics. You can go to the site.
That's OnlyFans, honey. That's the other credit card bill.
Different. That's Tinder.
Yes.
Tinder is the dating site. Tindy is the electronics marketplace. And for just $12.67 plus shipping, you can have a high-powered Flipper Zero even infrared module. Looks really cool. I haven't personally tested it, but having an add-on IR module for your Flipper is definitely the way to go.
Look, let's be honest, by the way. If you go to Tindy, lose your wallet first. It is so freaking dangerous to go to Tindy.
Because it's like, oh, you like this Flipper Zero add-on. How about this other Flipper Zero add-on? Which
How about
is exactly what it does down the bottom.
Cameras,
site.
3D printing, CNC, like every category I go, I don't go to Tindy because every category I go to, I'm like, I never knew I wanted that. Click.
And whatever you do, don't scroll to the
Oh.
bottom of the page where it suggests similar items you might also like.
Oh,
Add to cart. Add to cart. Well, this one says free shipping.
So Josh, you should get on a call with my coworker Edwin and I, because usually our one-on-ones end up with us at AliExpress. And like, can you believe they have this really high, and it's only $4,000? Normally, governments are paying hundreds of thousands of dollars for this. It's not that bad, but we found that stuff. More importantly, Edwin has found that stuff.
Yeah, and he's living under his desk now because he's,
high quality IR cameras for drones and all that type of stuff. He's like, military grade stuff. People are paying like $75,000
he's getting the
for
thermals,
it.
isn't he?
He wants
He's
to.
getting the thermal cameras. Yeah,
wants
that's
to.
dangerous, dude.
Yeah.
They're going to draft him and send him to Ukraine if he's not careful.
Yeah, every one of our one-on-ones usually ends up with some trip to AliExpress or
Oh, now I'm looking at AliExpress. I hate you so much.
Oh God.
What about Gov deals, Josh?
Shut up. Damn it. Facebook Marketplace is bad enough. Don't do this to me.
You don't have a problem. Hey,
somewhat related. I was just going to say, Larry, your tile story.
Oh no! I was going to go with these spoofing and emergency traffic preempts. And
that's right after the IR.
Because
So someone reverse engineered the device that, or at least one of the devices. I'm assuming
Strobcom 2 EVP system, and there's two major manufacturers. Strobcom is one of them.
And so these are the devices that would sit on top of a traffic light, receive the infrared signals from emergency vehicles, and change the status of the traffic light. Yeah. We've talked about this in the past. Bill has done research on this. You also had the guy that had a Flipper Zero, but also a lot of other hardware that was able to do it. But when this person reverse engineered the actual device that receives the signal, they observed one of the big findings, I think, was that this system was programmed to only accept vehicle IDs. So encoded in the infrared transmission was a vehicle ID, and the traffic light only changes if you present the correct vehicle ID, which I'm assuming then whoever's installing them is pre-programming them with the vehicle IDs and then installing the thing in the emergency vehicle that emits the right vehicle ID. So there is some level of protection so people can't just willy-nilly change traffic lights. And I'm not saying this is happening all the time, but for these models where these are deployed in this version, that's how it works. Which is pretty wild.
Oh my God, the thermal cameras on AliExpress are hot. Yeah.
This has got to be legit. He's got a plug board there.
God, you're horrible. I hate you. Okay.
Josh, you should Facebook Marketplace. All right. Well, I'll send you one. While we're on this subject.
Oh, I hate you.
There's someone fairly local to us that's got retired used traffic lights taken out of service by a third-party contractor. $100 each.
Really?
Yeah. Do you know how big they are, dude?
I do.
You know how they're this
approximately.
Josh, yes, I do.
You know
yes,
how
I
big
do.
they are.
Yes, I do.
You know how big they are?
Right there. Yes, yes, I do.
Let's just look over Larry's shoulder. It's right
there. Right there. So, but $100 is pretty good. I mean,
it's great. A fun project.
Yep.
So next week there will be 4 of them behind Larry.
No, I have to finish this one. I have the other one that's my studio light, but the recording in progress light type, but haven't used it in a while. So,
where'd you get the traffic light that's behind you, Larry?
I would say Facebook Marketplace, but it wasn't. It was actually like Craigslist back in the day, and I actually picked up 2 of them, and we went there for something else, and this guy was one of those guys you see on not the hoarding shows, but the American Pickers.
Yeah,
he'd actually been on American Pickers before that, and he just had a bunch of stuff that was there to buy one thing. He's like, "Oh, come check out all my other stuff too." And I'm like, "Ooh, you have traffic lights." We were there for a payphone.
Yeah. Okay.
And he's like, "I've also got traffic lights." I'm like, I also like money. Yeah.
Right.
Oh.
So, you like spending money, let's be clear.
I don't get me wrong.
So new spinoff.
You got that one to
Hacker Pickers.
Yeah.
Yeah. You got that one to work, right? The traffic light?
Yeah, both of them do work. The one behind me needs to be finished. It needs an ESP32 and some relays. So I can control it via the Wi-Fi. But the other one that I have is an ESP8266 with some relays, and my Stream Deck sits right down here. It's unfortunately off camera up here. But my Stream Deck actually has a script that calls a curl command to hit the web server on it, and it can turn the lights on and off.
Oh, that's cool.
So it's got a red light and a green light, and back during COVID, if the red light was on, the kids knew not to come into my office because I was on a call. And if it was green light, they could come in. So, yeah.
You say it was red light the entire day.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
pretty much.
I could have used that back in the day.
Yep. But I don't even think it's plugged in. I don't know what the status of it being turned on and stuff. But it does have custom lenses in the signal. So in Berlin, Berlin is famous for having some very distinct walk don't walk signals called Ampelman. And when I was in Berlin in the Ampelman souvenir shop, they actually had reproduction lenses of the Ampelman walk don't walk. And
that's cool.
I bought them. And that's the red light, green light in that stuff.
Oh, that's wild.
Yeah.
Larry, tell me about tile security is so bad it's a feature for stalkers.
Yeah. So the one that I linked to is at Adafruit, and there is a link to a research paper on ArXiv. I don't even know how to pronounce it. ARXIV.
Yeah. Yep.
And the research that they did was pretty terrifying. Thinking about some of the stuff that they did, was along the lines of, Tile makes some claims about some privacy, specifically around being able to passively track them over Bluetooth advertisements. Tile claims that the advertisements are anonymous. Nope, not even close. The mode that they state for preventing theft, they were able to defeat the anti-theft mechanism. They also noted that if they could compromise Tile's servers, Tile maintains a location and location tracking of all the Tile devices, which they kind of expected, but there was something along the lines of that it was a heck of a lot worse. So,
yeah, I mean, compromising the servers, that's bad in a lot of different situations.
Yeah.
That was understatement of the year. Compromising the servers is bad in a lot of different situations.
Well, compromising the backend
Paul.
servers, it would be bad. I mean, everything from like Microsoft's update servers to like, any update server for firmware.
Didn't you have a story about malvertising and
oh, well, that's just don't curl to bash. Like, stop doing that. Never do that.
But dude, if I want to install Claude CLI, that's what they tell me to do.
No, don't do that. There's a lot of some of the videos I actually saved off my Instagram were some really cool scripts for Windows that give you like awesome management control and like hacks for Windows. And some of them actually talk about how, when you install it, like it's the same thing. Like in PowerShell, like you just get to PowerShell or whatever. And they're like, yeah, I know he's not supposed to do that, but like I trust this repo. Like I've looked at the code. And I'm like, but still don't make a habit of doing that because you're basically running untrusted code from the internet on your system. And in this case, coupled with malvertising, so you see an ad, like so if you Googled for Claude code, you'd see an ad and then it would look just like the Claude code documentation, copy and paste the command, except, there's malware in it. So, I mean, there's really not much more to talk about other than don't curl to bash. Curl to bash one-liner.
Right. If you're going to curl, do it with your arms extended down.
Yes, yes.
12-ounce ones, they progressively get lighter.
Then it talks about the malware. The malvertising was interesting. Yeah, distributed via Google Ads. That was kind of interesting.
We're seeing a lot of these stories that are about vulnerabilities, and we've always talked about vulnerabilities, but and with the 0-day clock and all this different stuff, and vuln management is dead, or whatever. Like I'm honestly thinking, like, where's the future going? And I'm honestly curious what everybody thinks. Do you think that we're just going to give up on vuln management? That CVEs are worthless?
No.
Well, there's no point.
I've thought for a long time,
years,
Josh.
maybe.
Oh, Mandy?
Sorry. I've thought for a long time. Oh, go ahead, Mandy.
I'm sorry, Jeff.
Well, I was saying, like, I could see that in probably like 10 years, 11 years.
Really? Okay, so you think vulnerability management may actually be dead in a decade?
I do. I think or it'll be so morphed that it won't look like exactly what it is now. Like, I think there will be an
That's interesting.
undercurrent of it.
What do you think it's going to look like?
I think if you took what it is right now, it'd be 30% that, but I think so much more of it will be handled autonomously that it will be like through the advent of technology, through things like, and I think that the dedication to finding vulnerabilities will have to grow because there's going to be so many more interfaces, bots, technologies that are working as agents. I think there's going to be a larger vulnerability base, more of them being caught within other technology, within other capabilities, and that the practitioners that are seeing it will have, what I'm saying, like 30-40% of what they currently have to do or see or research. And it'll probably be, in certain ways, it's hard to explain, but I'm thinking like some of it would be simplified, but some of it would have to be expanded because of the intricacies of the networks, the technology itself, the way it's interfacing and handling even more critical infrastructure. What are you
Jeff,
laughing at?
I'm laughing because Larry sent me a message and it's absolutely perfect. I sent him, just for revenge, I sent Larry, because sending me to AliExpress, I sent him a hazardous materials truck that's for sale for nothing practically, like a few hours away from him.
He's already ordered it.
And I'm like, you want it, don't you? He's like, of course I do. Do you know me? I want it. Of course I want it. Want does not equal need. Which is why he has a rat rod.
My take on it has been, I go back to when I learned the basic risk equation being, risk is a function of vulnerabilities, threats, and countermeasures.
Right.
And, our whole industry is basically built around vulnerability management. And I've often wondered, for years, why. And I think the reason why, you can agree or disagree, is that looking at that equation, vulnerabilities seem to be the thing that we could make the most impact. If we reduce the vulnerabilities, risk goes down, and that's the easiest thing to go after. And so that's where the industry's gone. But things like threat, there's, Mandy and I were at Zero Trust World last week, put on by Threat Locker. I was going to ask Mandy, expand on your comments and tie in what you saw and what you learned last week, because I know you went to a bunch of the talks. Is it possible to shift to more going after the threat and trying to do something with the threat, making the existence of vulnerabilities less impactful because there's other things that can be done, yet alone countermeasures? How do you react to the fact that there are vulnerabilities out there? Because I've long believed that vulnerabilities are here to stay. They're never going to go away. Maybe we need to figure out some way to go after the other components of the risk equation to drive risk down. And threat seems to be the next big thing.
Yeah, I mean that's what the data shows too. Like you, even if you patched everything to the latest version all the time, you're still going to have exposures.
Right.
But I think vulnerability management goes to patch management. Like, why do I need to go scan my network, find vulnerabilities, then funnel that into a patch management system? Like, shouldn't I just have a patch management system that hits all of my devices and gives me a report and says, yeah, like you've got these Fortinet firewalls, you've got this other gear over here, you've got these Windows machines, and they're not up to date on these software. You want me to go like help you fix that? Yes, please go fix that. That's where I always envisioned vulnerability management. That was my biggest fear working in vulnerability management, was we would just straight up be replaced by patch management. Like, skip the step and just tell me what I've got and tell me what needs to be patched and go patch it.
Basically auto remediation with SBOMs. To a
Yeah,
certain extent.
or an agent. I mean, the patch managements have an agent on the system, and Qual is pivoted to doing that for you, right? So, because like, why do I need to go scan and then curate the results and then all that stuff? I just skip that step. Just tell me what needs to be patched. If there's something end of life, tell me about it. I can't patch it, so I want to know about that. Just go tell me about it.
Well, Paul, do you think, like, say in the next decade, My guess is that by virtue of AI enabled searching and finding and cataloging, that the vulnerabilities will expand to tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands per year. So managing it like the current CVE program would be complex, but what about like a global vulnerability catalog? I mean, how would that differ from CVE currently? Like, if it's a global program, what do you think would adjust?
Well, I think it should be a global program, and it should catalog all the. I think if there is a vulnerability in software, it should have a unified, right, like a record with a moniker that we all agree on, right? I agree with your assessment that that's just going to get more and more increase in volume over time, because we're going to have more software, and we're going to have more people finding flaws in software, better technology to find flaws in software.
Right.
So we're not going to have less CVEs moving forward, right? The trend's going to continue. We're just going to have more, and that's just going to further overwhelm teams. What I think would be interesting from a technology perspective is using technology like AI to get better at the patching. I think there's a hesitation to patching to go, I don't like, I got to figure out what version I'm on. Then I got to figure out what version I go to, and then need the upgrade path to that. But also I want to minimize my operational risk. So is my configuration correct? Like, will this update actually work? If we could have something that models that and gives teams better capabilities to upgrade, where it alleviates a lot of the stress, anxiety, and operational risk that come along with upgrading a firewall, as an example, that in conjunction with tied to your patch management system, that would be awesome.
Have you noted anything in the last decade where the modeling has eclipsed what it was?
No, I mean, there's been some attempts at like modeling your network, and there's companies that have done that in the past, but it'd be an interesting idea for a startup to tackle those,
Yeah.
the patch management and the upgrade cycle, right? I also think we're pretty terrible at a couple of other things that are table stakes that vulnerability management is bad at. Adrian pointed out a couple of things, IoT devices being one, but I also think we're pretty terrible at finding default passwords and weak credentials across our environment on a continuous basis. There's not a tool, I think, that does that really well. And we're pretty terrible at figuring out what's end of life, and what, more importantly, what will be end of life soon, so you can get ahead of it, right? Because it's one thing to say, I've already got this stuff and it's end of life, because now as much technology as you want to throw at that problem, you may have to physically go swap something out, right? And that takes time, money, resources, and planning. So having something that looks at maybe what is end of lifing in the next 3 months, 6 months, year, and allowing you to plan for that, that would be amazing. Because right now, figuring out what's end of life on your network is hard.
Yeah. So something, Larry, do you think there's any way that could run almost like parallel to the bill of materials? Whether we're talking F-bombs, S-bombs, AI bombs, whatever.
I mean, I think so. Anything is possible in this age of AI, right? We can do whatever the hell we want.
It'd be interesting to have fields in the S-bomb when the end of life date is. Is that
exactly? That's what I was thinking.
I think it's
correlated.
Is that there?
I think there is capability for that now.
For what, the end date of an S-bomb?
No, end of life.
No, of the components, or
end of life is this field in a standard S-bomb, especially Cyclone
Okay.
DX.
Yeah.
There is no problem having end of life, end of service, end of support, blah 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 blah.
End of sale.
End of sale.
End of sale isn't,
etc.
Is end of sale a big? I guess you'd want to know.
I don't know if end of sale is in there, but I mean, still, it's not that big a deal to add a field.
Right.
Yeah.
And end of sale is arguably different, because end of sale from the manufacturer is different from end of sale for whatever remaining inventory is at Amazon or what you can get off of eBay.
Yeah. End of sale is important. Like if I want to replace a device, I want to know if it's end of sale because then I can't go buy a new one. I got to buy the new model or version of it or whatever. And is that the same? It's different. Like,
and I'd argue that is the end of life date. End of life date is the day that maybe they stop selling them altogether. And end of support, because you could have a device that's end of life that they still support.
Right.
But just no longer selling anymore.
In those terms, I think you're on something, Larry. Those terms mean different things to different vendors, perhaps.
Yeah, agreed.
It's very
somewhat,
confusing.
but I mean, the big culprit is Microsoft and the Windows OS systems.
Yeah.
Does anybody have a grasp on what percentage of currently available or in use software has SBOMs?
God, no, that's a crazy.
That's a Josh
I feel like
question.
that'd be like impossible if you're going to go with all software that's in use. So
there's no, I don't have any idea how many the percentage of software that has an SBOM. I will tell you, it's not a huge percentage.
I was thinking
Off the cuff.
An interesting take on that question would be how many percentage of SBOMs that exist for commercial software and applications versus open source. Because who's responsible for pulling together an SBOM for an open source?
Well, anybody can do it. That's not really a problem.
Right.
And just add it to the GitHub, basically. The problem is that according to 14028, Executive Order 14028, every software sold to the federal government is mandated to have an SBOM. So there is a lot of software sold to the federal government, as you can imagine. So all of those have to have SBOM, so the companies might as well just make them available to everybody. So there's a pretty decent percentage. I'm going to say 20 to 25% of software has an SBOM. And this is off the cuff. This is based on nothing other than my guess.
Yeah.
Okay. This is a swag, significantly wild ass guess. But that's mostly because of Executive Order 14028. The big problem is that our SBOM is accurate. And that's one of the biggest problems we've had with SBOMs ever. But, we're starting to see these other bombs that are actually bringing the SBOM percentage up. Cryptographic bomb because of post-quantum cryptography. We're starting to see governance bombs for compliance. We're starting to see a lot of F-bombs because they're annoying. No, just
Yeah.
kidding.
I mean, when I bomb atomically. So.
and Josh, the discussion that I had
for our audio only listeners, that's what my T-shirt says, and it's a hip hop reference, not a war reference.
Yes. And Josh, this was a discussion. I forget where we were having this the other day. I think it was with some of the folks on the SANS Slack, and then I was having it at work too. Like, how soon is it going to be before, let's say, as a pen tester? How long will it be before when I go in and deliver a pen test for a contract that the people that we're delivering the contract for are asking for an AI bomb for my pen test?
Next week.
Yeah.
Helena Oakley, we've interviewed her.
Yeah.
Is doing the AI bomb. And
I know. I spoke on stage with her in Canada about AI bombs.
There are already companies that are talking about. I'm the one that was like, you need to do this. And she's like, okay, I'll do it. So yeah, she's doing that. And I'm so proud I convinced her.
Her and Dmitry Radinoff.
Yeah. So the problem is that this idea of guardrails around AI, not just around the AI you're using, but your vendors you're using, which includes your pen testers. Because remember, as soon as they pen test you and get domain admin, the AI that's performing the pen test may have access to, exfiltrate your data. So where are the guardrails to make sure it doesn't do that? This is a real problem. So the AI bomb, the S-bomb, I'm calling them the provenance pack. All of your bombs, okay? The provenance pack is a real thing. And over the next 3 to 5 years, and Mandy, this goes back to your 10 years from now, it's going to be mostly automated.
What I want to know is, though, Josh, did you purposely dress like Dade Murphy from the movie Hackers, or is that just a coincidence?
No, all I had on was a long sleeve black T-shirt from Nolicon.
Oh.
And I'm like, I can't just show up like a floating head, so I have to put something on.
Oh, you want to, dress it up a bit.
Also, he's distinguishable from his background.
It's very nice. Well done.
Yeah, come on. I built a PSW background just for you, Paul. Because I love
you. Also ADHD. The hazmat truck would make an awesome mobile studio, by the way. an awesome mobile podcast studio.
great.
You got the inside.
Oh, Larry, look at Larry's face.
I think Paul's saying he'll go
Yes,
50-50
for sure.
on it with you, Larry. I think
Did
that's
you
what
do
I
the
heard.
research and
podcast
watch
from
Ready
anywhere.
Player One?
Yeah, it's got
For-
its
for
own
kids?
generator. We could podcast anywhere.
Hey, then we can go. Do you guys remember that Hummer that had the platform where the helicopter could land on it?
Oh yeah.
I almost
Oh.
bought last year.
Larry, look at your
That'll be
Larry.
next
I'm
phase.
looking at your face, Larry, and oh my God, it's killing me.
You just hook, line, and sinker, Josh.
See,
No, that was-
somehow the
that was
truck
Paul's
needs to
fault.
have the traffic light on it somewhere,
yeah.
so you know when you're broadcasting and not.
we keep
So
it at
that's gotta be
Larry's house,
outside.
and then Larry would have to drive the studio here, or we'd have to we could drive the studio around rather than driving to the
Well,
studio,
That's
but if you're
right.
going to do lights, I mean, let's go recreate Ecto 1. I mean, come on.
right? We could really.
Wah,
decorate.
wah, wah, wah.
Or
No,
the
this truck
urban
already has
assault
hazardous materials
vehicle
on the side.
from,
You could put
Stripes.
something like, if you could come up with some like pun, hazardous materials podcast or whatever, and build out as it's an office space in the back. So you build it out as a studio, a mobile studio. Look,
Yeah.
Paul, I think Paul's saying he'll go halvesies on it.
Let's do it.
You need a gunner seat.
Duh.
A Star Wars.
You had
Star
me
Wars
at
thing
gunners.
with gunner seat.
Then I'll have to move within driving distance of y'all.
A lightsaber rack in the thing.
How far can you shoot with your wedge? I mean, come on.
Nice.
Oh dear God. Okay.
So Larry, did you released your open source repo? Was it last week or the week before?
It had probably been out for about 2 weeks at that point, but we talked about it on the show last week. Yeah.
Yeah.
No.
So I also released a project via GitHub. It's my story number 11.
Mm-hmm.
I presented on this tool on a prior technical segment. I've kind of quietly released it up until now. And I call it a tool, but it's a bunch of shell scripts that automate some work for you to do man in the middle or machine in the middle. It was called machine in the middle now.
It is.
Machine in the middle attacks. So you can configure, and the scripts will help you set all that up and run all the tools. So you put your IoT devices on one side, you put your network or internet on the other side, and all the traffic flows through it. Gives you control over DNS, DHCP, and has a lot of tools that are scriptable and built in to the script. So you can do man in the middle proxy. The most recent one I built in was DeLorean. So since you can intercept and control the NTP traffic, if the device is reaching out to an NTP server on the internet, you can actually intercept that and change the time to whatever you want on the device.
So you
and
built
it
the
turns out
time
there's some
machine in a
SSL.
DeLorean. Damn it.
Yeah, and it turns out there's some SSL attacks that are possible if you can control the time on the system. So
Nice. Very nice. Actually, yeah, that's legit. That's very cool.
yeah, so it's open source now. It creates a Wi-Fi network on that same network. So if you get an IoT device and you want to associate it with that Wi-Fi access point that it creates, all of its traffic will flow through. So it's great for mobile app testing, IoT device testing. So yeah, I just put it out there. Open source.
And Paul, and when you've been running it, what type of box have you been running it on?
So I tested it on Kali Linux running on a Raspberry Pi.
Okay, that was my question. Raspberry Pi,
Yeah.
because
Yep.
could you create Wi-Fi networks right on the Raspberry Pi using the Broadcom
Yep.
stuff? Cool.
Yep. Yes, I did.
Okay.
Really?
So-
Confirmed. I have this little.
So how
spot-
many
I-
Raspberry Pis have you got within 10 feet, Larry?
Don't ask.
Literal. Let's not go 3D. Just within a 10 feet circle of where you are now.
Yeah. You just I recommend 2 Ethernets, right? So there's one built in the Pi. Then I had a USB dongle that was an Ethernet. So one was on my local network. One was the Ethernet network for the testing, and then the Wi-Fi network is bridged to that Ethernet adapter. There's a diagram in the documentation that shows you.
Well, Lee, here's one drawer, and
One drawer of Raspberry Pis.
There's 10 in.
Yep.
No.
I count at least 15.
Yeah, I was going to say there's probably 15 in that one drawer, and that's not the only drawer full of pies. So,
Yeah, no, you know. I know, Larry. There's
Remember,
probably a
everybody.
3-digit number of Raspberry Pis in his office.
There's a 3-digit number of cheap yellow displays. That I know.
Hi, Jeff. Jeff has to drop because there's a thunderstorm coming in.
Yep.
Take care,
Don't wanna be
Jeff.
there in the lightning.
Be
Hi,
safe.
Jeff.
See you, Jeff.
So anyway, no, it's by the way, it's cool, and nice. We need a Larry in our neighborhood.
Or Paul in our neighborhood.
Or Paul, or both if you're really lucky. I mean, hell, your guys are only 30 minutes apart. That's just amazing.
Yeah.
And so yeah, no, it's actually
nice.
What I started thinking about, knowing you two, and I don't derail it, but when I was looking at, there's one of my stories is about 882, which is the OT ICS security standard from NIST, and that companies are commenting on it, which is good, like Dragos and some of the other, we know these guys.
Yeah.
I was thinking, boy, if you guys had any free time, you should comment on it, but you guys are like so busy, I can't imagine. But you would definitely qualify as subject matter experts on OT, IoT security, rather. Excuse me.
Yeah, I had a story about that too, Lee, and this is the IQ4 Web HMI.
Mm-hmm.
So this is the I forget who makes it, but it is in a line of building management system controllers used to manage HVAC, lighting, and other building automation functions across commercial, healthcare, government, industrial facilities.
Mm-hmm.
These are important devices. There was a couple times in my career, one when I was working at the university, we were talking about the security of the building, and it was like building management that was managing these systems that controlled the lighting and the HVAC for the building. And this particular building was used for scientific research that also involved live animals. And so the climate conditions in the building matter greatly.
Yeah.
Right. They have to be maintained for that environment. And they were very concerned, even at that time, this is like, early 2000s, they were concerned about the cybersecurity practices, around these systems. And of course, they were connected to, back then, like pre-XP, SP2, systems that were very vulnerable. And I'm like, this is bad.
Mm-hmm.
And so when I saw that, this story reminded me of that. So this controller, basically what happens in the factory default, there's no user setup, there's no authentication. So when you connect it the first time, you create that initial user, and then it's supposed to like flip into, you have to authenticate to connect to me. But what it does is it actually leaves that original endpoint that gives you the facility to create the initial user, it leaves it open. So the article says, crucially, the endpoint used to create the first web user is accessible before authentication. This means a remote actor who can access the HTTP interface, notice they don't say HTTPS, can create an administrative account using attacker-controlled credentials, thereby enabling authentication under their control.
I'm out of alcohol, and you tell me this now?
Yeah.
Yeah, pretty much. We were waiting.
Didn't
you see the hand sign I gave him?
No, I feel like there's other vulnerabilities that fall into this category too.
Well,
it's the first time this has happened.
It's easy setup, which you want an interface where somebody can go to and create an account, so it's not the default credentials anymore. But that's supposed to get turned off. I mean, we can argue that that's not necessarily a great idea, but having it so it's easy for people to not use default credentials is a huge win. But damn it, you're supposed to turn that shit off.
Right? Like they tried to not have default credentials, and we applaud them for that, but the implementation is just poor.
And I'll bet you the instructions they gave were like targeted to, they're not targeted to us. They're targeted to the guy who's just trying to get this guy installed and working and keep the temperatures
right,
the climate right.
Yep.
And by the way, I was thinking, you were thinking, we're members of our local zoo, and we've gotten some backstage stuff. And climate management is huge, particularly like in their their hospital areas or other stuff. That's really important to get that right. So this is like, you don't want to fuck with this stuff. Come on.
Well, and kind of similar vulnerability, my story number 13 is pretty interesting too. HP Aruba networking switches have multiple vulnerabilities. So the first is an unauthenticated authentication bypass with the admin password reset. So you don't need credentials, no interaction, just network access, and you can change the admin password.
Are you kidding?
Boom.
Then, but to couple that off, so that, and this is, I've been talking about a lot about this lately, like an authentication bypass doesn't give you access to the internals or what's lying underneath it, right? Authentication bypass gives you like the ability to manage the switch or the firewall or whatever.
Okay.
It may not give you, a lot of these things run Linux under the covers, right? It doesn't give you a Linux command prompt. But that's when you need CVE 2026, 23814, or 23815, or 23816 that let attackers escape the CLI sandbox and execute arbitrary commands in the underlying Linux system. And so now you have full device takeover. And this is what threat actors are chaining together most commonly against these networking appliances in IoT devices, is they're mixing the authentication bypass with the command injection, or if the buffer overflow is in an authenticated endpoint, if they have an authentication bypass, they can access it, right? So it's the chaining.
Are they getting a root shell with this, or maybe it doesn't matter? It has enough privileges to do whatever the hell you want.
It's a good question. Usually escalation to root in the underlying Linux system is either not required because you are root, or pretty trivial after that.
I mean, if you're the admin interface for what the device is doing, it might not matter. You have enough privileges to do anything you want.
Yeah. So it's a juicy one.
Yeah. Do you ever stop and say, how did somebody figure this shit out? It's really cool.
Sometimes, and sometimes I just go, oh God, oh God, oh God, when will it ever end? It's a detail.
Well, yeah, that too. I mean, those are kissing cousins. It's fine.
Kissing cousins.
Well, they're two sides of the same coin. If you prefer, it's like, why not? But like I said, crazy. Hopefully, there's a fix for this.
Is there?
Yeah. They patched it.
Good.
So now you got to go patch your switches.
Mm-hmm.
All your switches.
Which,
you should be doing that anyways, right?
You should be doing that anyway, which probably requires a reboot. And, that doesn't mean downtime, does it?
Christ. Do it at 3 o'clock in the morning. No one will notice.
No.
Yeah, no.
Who'll know?
No, they're never going to know.
Well, here's
never gonna know.
Here's the operational risk, though.
Without dropping any packets, right?
It's bad if it reboots but doesn't come back.
That's your problem right there. Here's your problem.
Ask me how I know this.
That's a problem.
Yep. Mm-hmm. I worked in the network team at the university that had to upgrade thousands of switches. And when you start dealing, especially with numbers like that, sometimes stuff doesn't come back.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of times with 100, back then it was a 144-acre campus. So you were going for a drive somewhere.
Yep. And finding a parking spot.
Finding a parking spot. Hoping
city.
you had access to the building to get into the building,
yep.
and then finding where the data center is.
Oh, the cabinet's locked, and the key.
Yep, the door to the. Do I have the key to the door to get in, or the cabinet's locked? Yeah, you run into a lot of logistical issues. Man, you're on mute. Sorry, trying to say something.
The first person I got in an elevator with at Zero Trust World was wearing a Brown University.
Oh, nice.
I was like,
nice.
Oh, hey. And we
awesome.
talked, but he hadn't worked there long enough, I guess, to have overlap.
Yeah.
Newbie.
Did you social engineer him?
Right.
I left him.
Did he trust you at Zero Trust World?
Did he trust me? He probably would have.
At Zero Trust World?
Yeah. Other people did. I don't know what their deal is, but they did.
Oh, we didn't talk about 14 old software bugs that took way too long to squash. This is a great article, by the way. Everyone should read it. It's a stroll down memory lane of vulnerabilities, like the what was it? Like the putty heap overflow.
Oh god, old school, old school.
But stuff that so for each vulnerability, they talk about like the pseudo, right? It was introduced in 2013 and discovered in 2024, right? Yep. And they actually talk about the oldest bug, or one of the oldest bugs at the top that I did a little research. It was Marvin Minsky's 1967 implementation of a universal Turing machine. But it had never been built into a real-world computer, but apparently someone found a vulnerability in it.
Oh my God! They found a vulnerability in Rock. Oh wow!
Yeah.
In what?
There's a link to an article that talks about it, which is crazy. And then they talk about, like a lib PNG graphics library flaw was 30 years old. It was introduced in 95 and fixed in February of 2026. That's the most recent one, right? So these bugs can live for a long time. Back to our all bugs are shallow with enough eyes quote. That's obviously not true. These just persist. Because I think vulnerabilities are tricky to spot. Like bugs people stumble across that deal with functionality. But a vulnerability can live for a long time because it's this really like esoteric thing. Typically users don't stumble across a bug and go, oh, like that caused a problem in my system and it's a vulnerability. I mean, that happens sometimes, but usually vulnerabilities are stealthy, and it takes a trained eye to spot them, obviously, because we have evidence that these bugs live forever. It's a cool article. My fear, though, is that with vulnerabilities that are in software for 20 or 30 years, that someone has known about it. Like when we fix it, are there like people like researchers or threat actors that are grumbling like, oh, you burned my 0 day. Like I was using that. But if they were using it, maybe we would have picked up on it. Who knows? I don't know.
Well,
I debate this in my head all the time.
I was thinking it's more of I was saving that. You sunk my battleship.
Right.
But that comes back to our conversation earlier that it looks like people aren't saving 0 dice, they're burning them. But
they're burning them. But they don't even need them sometimes. I mean, look at Larry's article about hacking McKinsey's AI platform. Larry, that's
that was
nasty.
a good one.
Yeah.
Holy God. I'm just reading this, man. 300. So McKinsey was using 384,000 AI assistants in 94,000 workspaces to work with their clients.
Processing 500,000 prompts a month.
Jeez.
Wow.
What the hell?
They are spent
200 exposed API endpoints.
with 22 of them not even requiring authentication.
Yep.
Ta-da. And apparently, and this is the kicker, by the way, and this goes back to the vulnerability management we were talking about. OWASP Zap, which everybody, like, that's pretty much a standard, would not have picked this sucker up.
Interesting.
So, now we've actually just pulled together all the topics we talked about tonight, almost all, with AI and how much it's being used by McKinsey, one of the premier consulting companies in the world, right? Everybody loves to hate McKinsey. And they're using so much AI, I can't even imagine how many people that have been replaced by AI in that company. And they are going crazy with it, and they didn't even protect their AI appropriately. 22 unauthenticated API endpoints, that's, DevSecOps states you should never write your APIs. You should configure them.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it's interesting. It speaks to the class of vulnerabilities that is, like not really a vulnerability. It was a bug. Well, because what was the Watchtower one with? It was a Juniper platform that made available essentially like an API endpoint that just let you run commands. And so it was deemed a vulnerability because it allowed for command injection, but it was put there like on purpose so that you could debug and run commands. So yeah, this sounds like a similar thing. If you make these facilities available, like for people to run commands or interact with an API, and it's not protected in any way, then it becomes a vulnerability. But it's also a feature, which is interesting.
Yeah. Interesting stuff, man.
We're a minute over time, so
we brought it full circle, right?
Brought it full circle. Thank you everyone for participating. Thanks everyone for listening and watching this edition of Ball Security Weekly. Larry, take us out.
Over and out.